Joining me on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line is a terrifically popular college football and professional football analyst from the worldwide leader in sports. He is none other than Robert Griffin III. How have you been, RG3?
I'm doing good, Rich, but I'm doing much better now that I'm on the phone with you.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way. So let's just jump right into it because I'm one of the multiple millions of followers that you have on your social media accounts, and I've been looking at some of the things that you've been saying on Twitter, and I'm like, let me give RG3 a call and kick the tires on this a little bit. And we'll start with a tweet that you put out a few days ago that you believe, because of the way that the Dolphins have retooled their team in a way and added the cheetah, Tyreek Hill, that Tua is going to take a big leap this year. What makes you think that, Robert?
Yeah, Rich, Tua really hasn't had an opportunity to truly go out and show the NFL world who he is. Last year, he was, throwing the ball in the pocket behind the 32nd ranked pass block unit in the league. It seemed like at times the coaching staff wasn't truly sold on him, whether it was bringing in Ryan Fitzpatrick or seeming like they wouldn't let him, push the ball down the field, even though, like I said before, it just seemed like he just didn't have the time to do so. But Tua's an accurate quarterback, so when you bring him in and you bring in Tyreek Hill, you already have Jalen Waddle there. You bring in Cedric Wilson from the Cowboys, Mike Gesicki there. There's a great tight end who can stretch the field. And then I think they did a really nice job of bringing in Teron Armstead, the left tackle from the Saints, and then Connor Williams, who did struggle a little bit last year, but is still an upgrade for them at the center position there on that offensive line. I just think that they put so many weapons around Tua, and they brought in an offensive-minded head coach in Mike McDaniel, that Tua's got one of two options, right? He's either going to prove that he's the guy this year, or he's going to prove that they need to draft a quarterback next year. So I'm on the side of I think they'll take a big leap because I don't think he has a choice with all the weapons that they brought in for him. And I know I'm leaving out some guys. Lynn Bowden Jr.'s got a chance to be a little bit of like a Deebo Samuel light for them. And then Eric Ezukama is a draft pick that people aren't really paying attention to, but he's a phenomenal wide receiver last year at Texas Tech. So I think that they just have so many weapons, and Tua's going to find a way to show the grit that I've seen from him this offseason. He's been a little testy with the media, getting upset about some of the stuff that's being said, and I think that's good for him.
Well, I mean, what does it look like? What does success look like for Tua? What does the big leap look like? I mean, numbers-wise and wins-wise. What does that look like for you, Robert?
Yeah, I know. Everyone wants to go to numbers and wins.
Yes.
Like last year, Tua had 16 touchdowns and 10 picks. I think if he goes 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, I think that's a great year for Tua. The benefit that Tua has that a lot of other quarterbacks don't is there's no expectation for a Super Bowl this year for the Dolphins. Right, every team is going out there and they're putting everything they can out on the field to win a Super Bowl. But the Dolphins don't really have that expectation. It's not the same as Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or Tom Brady. So Tua doesn't have to get the Dolphins to the playoffs. They don't have to win the Super Bowl for it to be a successful year for him, because that's what we're really talking about here. For him, he just has to show that he can be a franchise quarterback. Do I think that Tua can take that big leap and include a playoff berth? Yes, I do. With this roster, the way their defense played last year, yes, I think he can do that. Does he absolutely need that to happen for it to be a big leap for him? No. I think if he just shows that he is that guy, I think the Dolphins will be very happy with him.
Well, that's a very nuanced take, and I greatly appreciate it because that's what I'm all about, too. But right now, Robert, you and I are in the mosh pit of sports talk radio. So let's get right down to it. Chris, ask him the what's more likely scenario that you asked of me two weeks ago. We have this Friday segment where Chris comes up with some scenarios here about what is more likely, A or B. Ask Robert Griffin III.
Yeah, just very silly, Robert. Okay, so what's more likely? That Tua has 30 combined touchdowns, running and throwing,
yep.
Or he struggles and Tom Brady is a Dolphins quarterback in 23?
It's more likely that Tua has 30 combined touchdowns.
There you go. Welcome to 2-0, Robert. Welcome to 2-0.
I don't think Brady goes to the Dolphins. I know there's all the stories about that, but I think now Brady's in Tampa Bay. He's either going to win there or he'll be done. I don't think he's playing for another team.
Robert Griffin III here on the Rich Eisen Show. Well, we just touched upon Brady a little bit. Another tweet that I saw, you were on Get Up in the beautiful New York, downtown New York studios that the worldwide leader in sports has for that program. And you said that if Gronk does not come back, if Gronk stays retired, you will jump in the East River. Now, Robert, I know you're not from New York City. Okay, I'm from New York City. I'm from Staten Island, New York, born in Brooklyn, raised in Staten Island. The East River is not something you want to jump into, RG3. You want no piece of the East River. You want no piece of it.
Yeah, Rich, I was told shortly thereafter that, there's a chance that if I jumped into the East River, I could walk out a couple inches taller, maybe have an extra toe or a foot.
Yes, sir.
So I'm really I'm praying every night, please, God, let Rob Gronkowski come back so I don't have to jump into the East River in the winter. But I will stay true to my word, and if he does not come back, I'll jump in the East River, and we'll see if I survive.
That will be an outstanding episode of Get Up. I would set my DVR for that right now if I knew what day that would happen. But I'm kind of with you. Like right now, Gronk wants no piece of the training camp. He wants no piece of that, and what he wants is peace and quiet. He doesn't want people walking around asking him all the time if he's coming back or not. That's the way I'm kind of reading it right now.
Rich, I read it the same way. Look, Gronk saw what Brady did, and once Brady retired, after a couple weeks, people kind of died down on talking about where he was going or what he was going to do. And I think Gronk's feeling the same way. For his mental health, doesn't want to be talked about all the time about whether he's coming back or not. And then for his physical health, missing training camp, the preseason, and maybe the first 8-9 weeks of the season is going to be the best thing for Rob Gronkowski. This guy went from the WWE back to the NFL and won a Super Bowl. So I put nothing past him. I think that he's still a great player. He had 800 yards receiving last year and was on pace to have another monster year before he got hurt and banged up there near the end. But Rob Gronkowski is one of my favorite players. I love the Gronk spike. I love his attitude, the energy he brings to the game. And I know him retiring probably made a lot of fans, sad because he's just such a fun player. And I think when Brady makes that call come week 12, 13, he'll pick up and come back.
I love the use of when, not if, in that phrase, RG3. Yeah. I love that because you're right, though. I mean, he's going to make that phone call. I mean, and that's with all due respect to his entire depth chart at the tight end position. Nobody's Gronk in terms of experience and history with Tom Brady. Nobody is Gronk.
Yeah, exactly, Rich. And, I'll even make it more granular for you.
Yes.
Like over the last 2 seasons with Brady and Gronk being there in just Tampa Bay, they've been a top 5 red zone offense. When Gronk is on the field, Brady hasn't thrown an interception in the last 2 seasons. He's 66 touchdowns and 0 picks in the red zone with Tampa Bay. And more than, I think it's about 40 of those have come with Gronk being on the field. So he's a massive threat for them. He's a security blanket for Tom Brady. They've won 4 Super Bowls together. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. He's the greatest tight end of all time. He's won 4 Super Bowls with Brady as Brady's tight end, and he saved Brady's tight end a lot of times as well. So I think Tom Brady will be making that call. It's not a matter of if, like you said, it's a matter of when.
Robert Griffin III from the worldwide leader in sports here on the Rich Eisen Show. So let's dive into the Baker Mayfield conversation for a little bit here, Robert, since you have a history of feeling, what's the word for, I don't know if disrespect, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but feeling led astray a bit by the organization that drafted you for another quarterback, although Deshaun Watson was not drafted in the same draft as Baker Mayfield, as Kirk Cousins was with you. But there's a lot of conversation right now as Watson is undergoing the disciplinary process with the league and the Players Association, that should the suspension be so significant, Mayfield should consider maybe his best option is to stay put and use the team that he's currently upset with, that drafted him, to showcase his abilities for another deal. I'm wondering if you would agree with that, or you think he should get a fresh start and tell everyone to pound sand. Robert Griffin III.
Rich, I'm actually going to take a different angle towards that, because you asked the question as if should Baker decide to stay. I think the Browns should offer the olive branch to Baker and ask him to stay if Deshaun Watson gets suspended for a significant amount of time. Baker's proven that in this city he can go win a playoff game, get you to the playoffs, do all those things. Last year he played hurt and wasn't very effective. But the bottom line is Baker Mayfield's better than Jacoby Brissett. That's just the bottom line. And if you're going to have to play a full season with a guy, your best option is to go back to Baker Mayfield and beg him to stay, and then present it to him in the same way that you just did, Rich. There's an opportunity for you to go prove yourself to the next team that you're going to go play for, right? Deshaun Watson's here. They paid him $230 million, rubies, whatever you want to call them. He's going to be the quarterback there at some point, unless he's suspended indefinitely and some other thing down the line happen. So I think the Browns should approach Baker and say, we need you. We're sorry how this all worked out, but we want to give you an opportunity to go out there and prove yourself. And I think Baker should take that. Now, I have seen that Baker has already said that both sides have moved on. He doesn't want anything to do with the team, essentially. But I think he should reconsider that, because this roster is stacked with playmakers at every position, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and they have a great offensive line. You might not get a better opportunity to go out and prove yourself than Baker would have with the Browns.
Yeah, but just imagine what it would be like just to walk through the hallways of that place when you've already put it in the dustbin of your memory, right? All week, and thinking, I would just be staring at the ceiling sometimes saying, how the hell did this happen with the Browns? And to hell with them, But then again, I understand, I know your history as well, where you've taken jobs that you knew you had to take in order to get where you want to go. I get it, but man, that would be a tough one to swallow if I'm Mayfield.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It would be tough for Baker to do that, and I think that's why he already came out and said that he's done with the Browns and he doesn't want to come back. But as we all know, things can change in a heartbeat. Maybe they offer him a little bit more money to come back and do that. They seem to be throwing money around like it's growing on trees. So maybe they could do something like that. But I tend to agree with you on this one, Rich, that Baker and the Browns are so far gone. And the Browns made the mistake of pursuing Deshaun Watson along with the other 13 teams, but they made the mistake of pursuing him while they still had Baker on their roster.
So
they should, if they wanted to get rid of him, they should have traded him before they went to pursue Deshaun Watson, because now it's just a massive cluster.
So let me ask you this question, because you always seem game for this sort of stuff, Robert Griffin III. Had Washington called you after you parted ways with them and said, you know what, our situation's so dire, we want you back, would you have done it?
Last year, I put out the tweet and the Instagram post saying make the call when they were pretty banged up at quarterback. I just think it does require dire situation for guys to consider going back to a place that essentially is like, the ex-girlfriend. They always tell you don't go back to the person or go back to the place where you got hurt as far as emotionally. And for me, that would be I'd be going back to a place I got hurt physically, emotionally, and everything under the sun. But at the end of the day, if you love football and you love the guys in that locker room, the teammates that I still have or had there in Washington, then you make that sacrifice. Because it's not about you in that moment. It's about you getting an opportunity to go play the game you love and put on a show for a fan base that you love. So, yeah, if Washington had called me last year, would I have gone and went and balled out? Yes, 100%.
Well,
so I think it just depends on your own situation.
Well, I kind of meant like right away. They've changed team names twice, let alone coaches, right? So, had it been right away, right, where the front office was pretty much darn the same, and would you have done it, do you think?
Yeah, Rich, that's a massive no. Yeah, that's a massive no. But, I misunderstood the question at first.
No. I inartfully asked
after,
it. I did not ask it properly.
After a few years, when they've changed coaches, changed the administration, tried to implement things that make the organization better, it might give you some pause to say, okay, maybe I'll think about this. But no, not immediately. No way.
Robert Griffin III here on the Rich Eisen Show. Just a couple minutes left. I started the program earlier talking about my sleeper teams for the summer, going into the summer. Teams that we're not talking about, that we should be talking about. And which team is number one for you on that list? I know which one mine is. I can tap dance a little bit longer because you didn't know this question was coming. And I'm not talking about a team that was bad last year either. I'm talking about a team that was good and has an opportunity to be even better and maybe win it all, even though they didn't last year. Which one is that team for you, Robert Griffin III?
Wow, I mean that's a great question because I don't think the Bills are a sleeper team, right?
Correct.
I think my sleeper team, to be quite honest, would have to be the Baltimore Ravens. They were good last year, even though they were banged up, the most banged up team in the entire league. And Lamar Jackson was the MVP probably halfway through the year, and then he got banged up. So I think the Ravens coming back with the help of Lamar Jackson, they're going to get Marlon Humphrey back, Marcus Peters back. Their offensive line is going to be better with the additions that they made and getting back Ronnie Stanley. They're getting back their top three running backs that were all hurt last year: J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and Justice Hill. So I think that would be my sleeper team because they're kind of forgotten about right now in the AFC North. With the Bengals going to the Super Bowl, the Browns, and all the controversy that's going on with them right now, and then of course the Steelers with that three-headed monster on defense, and then bringing in Kenny Pickett and having all those young skilled guys. The AFC North to me is just as competitive and exciting as the AFC West. So I look at the Ravens and I say that would be a big sleeper team for me, and then the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, the Saints.
I think that.
Saints are on my list too. Saints are on my list too. I chose the same church, different pew. I went the Bengals. I don't recall.
Okay.
I don't recall a team that went to the Super Bowl, lost it, and almost won it and lost it. Nobody talks about them, honestly. and their one glaring weakness, their offensive line. They hit the heck out of it in free agency. They actually shored it up. And they're coming back, and we're not. Nobody's talking about the Bengals. That's number one for me.
Yeah.
Robert.
I don't disagree. I think the reason no one's talking about the Bengals is because we've had all this craziness going on in the AFC West with all this offensive firepower.
Mm-hmm.
But really, what everyone is really trying to do is match what the Bengals have had when they drafted Jamar Chase. They got T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd.
Yeah.
Those big three at wide receiver, and then they brought in Hayden Hurst, who was a former first-round pick at tight end. But I'm with you. What they did on the offensive line is probably the most impressive thing all offseason. It's been a quiet kept secret because it hasn't been a mainstay on ESPN or NFL Live. But Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, and then bringing in Lyle Collins, who had probably my favorite line of the offseason when he showed up and met Joe Burrow and basically told him, no one's going to touch you. Listen, maybe your wife doesn't want to hear that, but as a quarterback, you definitely want to hear your offensive lineman telling you that no one's going to touch you. So I thought that was pretty cool. And they've done a really, really good job of shoring up that offensive line like you talked about.
As always, a delight, Robert Griffin III. Thank you. Look for my call. I'd love to do this on the regular if you're up for it. Greatly appreciate it.
Hey. I'm always up for it, Rich. Appreciate you having me, brother.
Right back at you. Robert Griffin III, at RG3 on Twitter and Instagram, right here on The Rich Eisen Show.